Pessoal, estamos aqui na Gamescom, a primeira Gamescom Latam, e com uma ocasião muito especial. Estamos com um convidado mais que especial, ele que é um dos caras da CD Projekt Red. Ele veio aqui diretamente da Polônia, é o nosso grande Pawel Sasko. Pawel Sasko, thank you for being with us. I'm a little nervous, I'm sorry.
I'm nervous too, so it makes two of us.
Yeah, because CD Projekt Red, the Reds, I think you changed my life. After when I play Witcher 3, I think this is not so just a game; it's art. Yeah, it's more deeper than a game. And I think years ago, I don't like so much games, and Witcher 3 bring me back to this hobby, this beautiful hobby. And now the project with Vale Geek. When we start the project, it's the Vale do Pontar. It's the Pontar Valley. It's the center of the region of Witcher 3. Now we are Vale Geek, but we like so much. The Witcher 3 represents the beginning of our project, and I'm so glad to be with you here. Thank you.
Of course. I mean, I'm really glad to be here in Brazil. Brazil has welcomed me really warmly, all the players and so on. And the Gamescom is actually really nice. It's much bigger than I anticipated. So many international brands came here. We actually had also numerous conversations with young and aspiring, creators who are actually making their own games, starting about things that are fresh and new about the Brazil as well. So I'm really keeping my fingers crossed for them, because those are the places where normally you have a lot of creativity to come in and so on. And as we know, AAA maybe can be a bit too stagnant in sometimes. So it's always great when those new creators bring up some new fresh air, to the whole ecosystem of the games. And I'm really happy to be here. And your food is amazing.
Yeah. We have a lot of barbecues. Barbecues, you said to me, you like so much, right?
Oh yeah, I mean the Brazilian barbecue oh my god, it just melted me when I had this Mariana, our head of Latin communications, she took me there together, and I was there on this barbecue, and I just couldn't believe what I'm experiencing. It was incredible.
Yeah, especially in São Paulo, we have a lot of foods, a lot of people. I think São Paulo is one of Cyberpunk board city, and I think you're in the right place to meet this culture more.
I mean, I'm glad to hear. I've also tried brigadeiro, and there's a couple other things that I don't remember the names of, but they look like a pier, and inside you have chicken and cheese and probably yes. And I think there are more traditional things. And I also got one thing that is considered apparently a Brazilian cocaine, but I don't know actually. It's a sweet out of nuts and sugar. But I forgot the name of it. But anyway, yes, I have a lot. I have tried a lot of things.
Yeah, I'm glad you are again in the Brazil. I think we have a lot of people, a lot of food, and enjoy. It's the first time here in Brazil or not?
Yes, this is my first time really, and I really hope that Mariana is going to invite me again. That's why I'm trying to be really nice.
Yes, I'm glad for that. Let's start the questions. It's a lot of questions, and I have to read. I saw one of your interviews in the internet. I like to see the inspirations of the people who like it. I like it so much. I admire you about The Witcher. And I saw you start with the literature. I think the literature, the books, I think inspires you a lot. It's the main inspiration for your work. I want you tell this beginning. How was your discovery about this world?
My discovery about the cyberpunk world in general, or just in general as a craft, as an art?
In general, and you can say about The Witcher, and you can say about cyberpunk too.
Sure. I mean, so when it comes to Witcher 3 and Witcher in general, I was growing up reading the books, because the game is based on the books from Andrzej Sapkowski, right? He's a fantastic Polish writer. So I read those when I was a teenager, right? And I was a huge fan from the very beginning. Really read all the books, and then I actually later read everything that Andrzej Sapkowski ever wrote. So it was much more, but I absolutely love his works. And at that time, so the Projekt Red was working on The Witcher 1 one, and I was dreaming about working in this company, and I worked in numerous smaller companies before I actually was able to join to the Projekt, and that was like 13 years ago. So quite a long time ago. So those were my inspirations really in beginnings when it comes to Witcher 3. I was also like always incredibly interested in history. I took like numerous times in my high school times in the Olympics, when we were like, knowledge Olympics, when you're like talking about history and so on. So I've loved history. I loved literature, reading like all the myths and old legends and so on and old stories. I think so many of those things actually helped me later when we were designing quests for The Witcher 3, Yeah, especially like, for instance, things like, I don't know, Slavic bestiary, like when you have things like Poroniec, which in Polish is bochlink, right? So the bochlink, from the Bloody Baron storyline, right? Like, this is from where it came from, right? I got inspired by that. And I love that it exists in the Polish folklore. So it was just a lot of just going down to the woods and learning about, from actual documents. It's interesting to me because like a lot of creators, they think that when you like make something new, you should be like, watching a lot of movies and maybe, I don't know, animes or whatnot, and also reading books. But I always tell people to just go back to the source material, When we work on a Phantom Liberty, like I was reading the diaries about actual spies who worked between Cuba and America, actually, and about all that. And that actually inspired me a lot for Phantom Liberty. But going to the Cyberpunk now, the thing was that with Cyberpunk 2077, I actually played the pen and paper, the original pen and paper, Cyberpunk 2020. Yes, by my Pondsmith. This system wasn't that actually popular anywhere outside of Europe, like not that many people played it. It was, of course, present, but in Europe it was really popular, and it was the times when I was a teenager and I was playing two systems. It was Vampire the Masquerade, and then another one was exactly Cyberpunk 2020 with original pen and paper books. So this is from where it started for me, and from there I actually got really into like reading William Gibson, and of course the Sprawl trilogy, all of his books, and then I got into Richard Morgan and Modified Carbon, like I love his books as well. So like from there sort of like it naturally went in and I started reading those things. So that's why Cyberpunk was sort of like almost a natural thing for me, natural next thing for me after Witcher.
Well, I think it's a lot of references. I think this is very important to study, to do your job, your profession, your work. Okay, I saw you are a degree in journalism, right? And postgraduate with psychology in Poland. I spoke once a time, with a guy called Bruno Biasotto. He worked as a reporter writing Witcher card game, and he said to me that in the CD Projekt Red, you want people that not with a games degree, a lot of degrees. I think it's very important. Bruno said to me he had a mentor called. Bardak, I think something like that. I don't remember the name.
Possible, yeah.
Yeah, and how is that when you want the people the different kind of areas?
A really interesting question, really in-depth research. So, first of all, yes, I mean, we do have some people that have the normal like degrees from like game design, but they're a minority. They're a minority. In most cases, we are actually like hiring people who do have experience and knowledge actually in various areas in the life. Like as you mentioned, I'm a psychologist in journalist by education. For me, what was important was that I always wanted to work on games. That was always the dream. But I studied for knowledge. I went in to study for knowledge. I really wanted to learn things, because I wanted to be informed, and that's why, like, when we have, my quest designers or cinematic designers or, open world designers, when I was hiring people for those roles, like, often you have people that are coming from archaeology or like psychology or sociology, some linguistic studies. That's also common. There are sometimes people from informatics or some engineering jobs, but in most cases, actually, those are various like humanistic studies, because those people are actually trained in like telling stories. They very often like read a lot of books. They are accustomed with just a lot of different works, that being movies or animes or mangas or comic books, anything on that front. But you experience a lot of storytelling. You're used to breaking down, various works of culture. There's a method that I always bring up when I talk with my designers, which is called deconstruction. And deconstruction, this is something that you can learn on the cultural studies. This is the way when you break the stories into pieces, when you understand, okay, here's the genre, here's the theme of the story, here are the elements of the story, this is how they work together, So I'm just trying to tell you that when we are actually looking for people to actually hire in our company, we're always looking for people who are really passionate about their craft, about like making video games. They really want to do it. But people also who have like a vast, I would say, life experience, knowledge, because they studied, they've seen things, they traveled a lot, and so on. You will see that people like this, they tend to be much more mature. They have like much broader view on life, much broader outlook on life, and it helps so much, when you're especially like working in a multicultural team like we are, we have like over 50 nationalities in the Projekt, right? We used to be completely Polish, but it changed, it changed like during, I would say, Witcher 3, we got more and more foreigners coming in, and then in Cyberpunk and in Phantom Liberty, like nowadays it's really, really like, I think half of the team is Polish and half of the team is all other nationalities, just mixed. So, but this is the way how you can like actually really achieve this moment when you have so many different in your resources. You have people that have so many different sources of knowledge. It's also sometimes just simply knowing the culture, the other cultures, and knowing the other languages, especially. This is so useful. This is so incredibly useful, for the people that want to be creative and so on and have them in the team. So yeah, we are very, very diverse as a team, and we also have like, loads of people from like, that are coming from backgrounds you wouldn't expect, and that's really interesting. Like, I mean, I remember like one of the best animators in Poland, he's a butcher by education, He's a butcher, right? And he's one of the best animators, because that's the thing, it doesn't sometimes matter what you studied. The study just gives you knowledge, but like everything else, your craft is actually what's important for us.
This is so important. I think it's a very good experience. And you said about the history and part of you have the story and you have part of history, part of quests. How is about that? I saw you did the butcher, the Baron quest from Witcher 3 about the Regis, the vampire quest, about the Carnmore battle, and about the Blood and Wine, and some stuffs. Yeah, the Baron is the one of the best quests I ever played, and how you thinking about that? How you separate this quest? How you construct these quests?
Oh God, this is a very complex,
I'm sorry.
complex discussion. But like in general, like I always start from like trying to figure out what I want to tell the story about, and I really want to try to make it authentic. So by authentic, I mean like natural, the story that really speaks to people, that is really like showing the true nature of people, really. And I talked about it today a bit during my lecture, that like we as human beings, there's so many things about us that is really dark. Those are things that we are not really like, we would not want to like talk about it. We would not want to acknowledge this, but there is this dark nature always in each one of us. And I always think about like those things, the topics that are really authentic and natural for us as human beings, right? And when it comes to the Bloody Baron, the thing was that I really wanted to tell a story that would be a parallel to the story that Geralt was going through. And the whole Witcher 3 is about fatherhood, is about becoming a father. And then exactly Geralt and his daughter Ciri. And in this specific case, it's about Baron and his family, like the kind of father he is. And that contrast really that comes from that two different fathers, like seeing each other, engaging with each other, and seeing how different they are, and that contrast meant to make you think, make you see this guy in a completely different way, that's why he's an alcoholic, that's why, he was beating his family, there was a huge important thread of the domestic violence in that quest. So as you can see, like I always kind of look at the real life, and I really try to find things that are interesting and important there. There's the quest that I did in Plan Wine that I don't really talk that often about, so maybe we can chat about this one. It's called La Cage au Fou. It's the one about the spoon collector.
Yeah.
And the whole quest is about the curse that was put on this woman. And the thing was that during the quest, you can see that this monster that was created, this monster couldn't feed themselves. Like this monster wasn't able to feed themselves. And the way you remove the curse was to actually about sitting down with that monster and like actually willingly having a meal, basically. That was the way how to remove the curse. And a huge inspiration for that was actually the girl that I was dating at that time. She was having a food disorder. She had basically bulimia, and it's a thing when you like eat a lot and then you go and vomit, basically. And like I was just trying to help her in a way. I was thinking a lot about this, and it really inspired me. It really inspired me into thinking about like just feeding disorders, and everything connected with that, and our relationship as human beings with food. And that really inspired me, when I saw her going through this. It really inspired me to tell that story. And she never helped me talk about this, and she never knew that actually was my inspiration. It was her really to think about this. And of course, I dressed it up as a curse, and I made a richer story out of it. But as you can see, there's always like this authentic core. There's always this heart.
Relationship about the humans.
Yeah, exactly. There's just something about the humans. There's always something like really true to who people are, and that's how I always do it. And, everything else is just really connected to just, I would say, the craft of being a quest designer, building the story, structuring it well, pacing it well, making sure that your characters are really authentic and feel real, and so on. All the dilemmas that are like not black and white, but are really gray, that you don't really know, that there's a lot of this, dark secrets, as I said. So anyway, I could talk about it for hours, but that's pretty much how I approach it. Yeah.
Whoa, dude, so incredible, so beautiful. You said I saw your passion in your eyes. I think it's it's the CD Projekt Red represents the games of the CD Projekt Red represents your look. It's so beautiful.
I mean, I'm glad you think so. Like, I really love what I'm doing, and like that's one of the coolest things actually for working for CD Projekt Red is that you will find people there that are really, really like hooked with this. Like people say it's like passionate, but I think it's even more. Like people are kind of crazy about what we are building. They're like really into it.
Rebels, true.
Yeah, exactly. Like rebels. They really love what we build. And of course, it's a job at the end of the day. And so on. But you can, there's so many things you can do in life, right, to make money. So why do something that don't make you passionate? What is not fun, right? Why make something that is not fun? Like we as human beings, like you have 60 as a man, you have 60, maybe 80 years of life as a woman, a bit more. And that's it, that's it. And you can live that life the way you want. And you can, of course, spend that time just, hating your job and just waiting for a weekend. But you can also just spend that life just building something, whatever that is, that is meaningful for you, for other people, so that you can live a good life, And again, I started philosophizing, so I'm sorry about this, but it really ties up with that for me.
Yeah. Well, this is inspiring, really. I saw you said about the Sapkowski, about the Lord of the Rings. I liked so much Lord of the Rings too. I saw one of her big reference. It's the Black Ocean by Jacek Dukaj.
Jacek Dukaj.
Yeah.
Black Oceans, yeah.
Yeah, I see you told about him with so much interest in so much. I want to tell about the people about this author, this Polish.
Sure.
Yeah.
So Jacek Dukaj, he is my favorite currently living Polish author. He's incredibly talented. He has an incredibly fresh outlook on life. He's a philosopher by education, and the books he's writing are a combination of philosophy and religion mixed with hard science fiction. Yeah. And for instance, one of the I remember I was a teenager when I read his first short story that he wrote, and a short story is about the fact that you have a it's the 23rd century, and as human beings, we have discovered that there is a life outside of Earth. And that life outside of Earth is actually conscious. Like those are actually the aliens, let's call them. The aliens are actually conscious. They are like human beings that think. They can they are sentient, basically beings. They understand the world, the life, and so on. And the whole short story is about the Pope giving a bulla and acknowledging that those aliens have a soul. Because if they die, their soul can go to heaven, and it becomes a part of the religion. And it's a part of a hard science fiction. It just shows you like how he thinks. He thinks like, what would happen if in real life we would discover now that they're aliens? I imagine that probably in time our Pope would have to look at this, and our core religions would have to look into this and be like, are they also a chosen? Are they also chosen? Do they have a soul? All of those things. It's actually so intriguing. That's the way how Jacek Dukaj writes. It's just like one of the examples. Black Oceans. It's a book about hard science fiction, economy, and so on. It's in the 22nd century about markets crashing. Anyway, if you can read it, I really recommend Jacek Dukaj's books. Incredible guy, incredible and really, really eye-opening hard science fiction.
Ooh. Pawel Sasko recommend, and Rico recommends you this author. About Cyberpunk, I saw that one of your best reference of Cyberpunk is animes, as you said, as Cowboy Bebop. I saw recently. It's so incredible. And about Ghost in the Shell.
Yes.
Tell us about that, about the Cyberpunk 2077.
Sure. So when it comes to like references of 77, actually like the game is built on like many different things. And like I think the core of it is of course, Mike Pondsmith's work. But outside of that, you have the Sprawl trilogy from William Gibson. William Gibson is a fascinating writer. I read almost everything he wrote. And the Peripheral as well, like his latest book. So William Gibson is an incredible inspiration for us, but there's also Modified Carbon, as I mentioned, from Richard Morgan, and those inspirations were important for us. But when it comes to like mangas and animes, there's an Eden, the manga. I don't know if you maybe know the Eden one, but it's really, really awesome. It's very long. It's very cyberpunk in its nature. There's of course Cowboy Bebop had a lot of it, especially when it comes to aesthetics. We really, really love Cowboy Bebop in CD Projekt Red, and at least for my generation, it had a huge impact on us, like the Cowboy Bebop, the way we saw it, and of course that combined with Ghost in the Shell and all the versions, because there's so many, there's like animes, there are movies and so on, so there's so many sources for Ghost of the Shell nowadays, but I cannot mention Akira, of course, the original animation from 1984, I believe, right? Incredible animation that was like so ahead of its time. When you watch it, I watched it like 4 or 5 times, and every single time when I watch it, I'm like, I completely forgot about this bit, I completely forgot that element was there, because like it was just so
many details.
It had so many layers, so much depth, and it was like so forward thinking, and it just foreseen so many things, so I love the elements of Akira. So I mean, I could talk much more about this, but when you look at Cyberpunk, like we really try to like understand the genre and really go really deep into this. There's also another one that I want to mention, and maybe you can wrap it up with this when it comes to the inspirations. It's the James Ellroy. So James Ellroy is a famous American writer, and he wrote books such as Black Dahlia or LA Confidential. Maybe you heard about them because those were turned into movies. Those are older books, from I think Black Dahlia is 1984 again.
Special year.
Incredible writing, very deep, like noir stories about police officers. In this case, really intriguing language. So difficult that, I mean, seriously, I was reading like that books in original. I was just sitting with dictionary, and it was just checking. Okay, this is like the language was so rich and so vivid. I love it. And James Ellroy actually writes with a style that we call staccato. So the style is like when you don't really write like full sentences, but you really like kind of chop them down and make it like kind of like really fast and really quick. So a lot of things happen in like just a couple words, so that staccato style is just like making you like so many things happen. So the action is so fast, so vibrant, Anyway, the inspirations of Cyberpunk 2077 are vast. There's like so many things in there that I could mention, but probably those are most important ones.
Well, this is so great. I think I like so much to see your reference, because it's very important to see Cyberpunk as we know today. And about the Phantom Liberty, it's a huge success. I like so much Phantom Liberty, and I have to thank you and all the Reds. I think you get all the Cyberpunk 2077 and bring more spying, the weather spying, the more dynamic. I think it's more action. You said it's evolution about the base game.
Yes, I mean, so for us, the Phantom Liberty was really built on so many things we have learned in the base Cyberpunk game. There were things that a lot of it took like tons of like discovery and figuring out, and like for instance the scene system for Cyberpunk. So like how we tell the story, right? Like it took so much to like figure out how the scene should be structured, how the staging should be, because in Cyberpunk you are a character in those scenes, right? When you're moving through the locations and so on, you're the character, you're playing in those scenes, right? And then in Phantom Liberty, when we've been working, it was built on all of those things, all of the things that we learned, all of the assumptions, all of the things that we found out that actually worked really well. And that's why when we play Phantom Liberty, it just feels like a step forward, because like as I believe that Phantom Liberty is the best story we have ever told in the Projekt Red. It's the best probably game we have ever built. It really does have like all our pedigree, incredible characters, very good plot, incredible art, it's very, very emotional, it has core choices, that bring you to completely different parts of the story. There's so much experience there, and it just leaves you like with emotions, it leaves you really crying, it leaves you really broken, that whole story. It's really impactful, and I love this. I love doing that.
The action, I think it's all there in Phantom Liberty.
Yeah.
I think yes, you have dedicated. It's an upgrade, a huge upgrade of Cyberpunk 2077, and I have to ask you about all the details of the CD Projekt Red. I saw it's a lot of elements when you put together, work it a lot. As the soundtracks, the music. I think Witcher and Cyberpunk, we have a lot of great musics. I think tell us about the soundtrack and about the elements. When you put together, you have a beautiful games.
Yeah, I mean, so this is a large topic in itself, but basically, like, what we wanted to do, we wanted to depict the world, we wanted to paint the picture, right? We wanted to create this immersion and this illusion of a living world. So what we did, we analyzed, what kind of art, what kind of like music styles we could have in the game, and we have arrived in, I think, like 9 different styles that would be like a core styles, and then from there we created radio stations that each one of them would be representing those different, like, would say, branches of music in a way. And then we worked with loads of different external creators, and different studios to actually reach out and figure out, how actually it could sound, how that music could sound in Cyberpunk, to really like paint the picture. But outside of that, you also have things in Cyberpunk and Phantom Liberty that we call the score, right? The score is actually written specifically for a given scenes, for a given emotions, for a given moment, right? So what we did in Phantom Liberty and 77 is we combined those two, right? Like you had this music that is coming directly from the world, from the radios and places where it plays. And then you have the score, that actually gives a lot of color and a lot of background for those scenes. Because like when you are having a very emotional scene, sometimes you need the music to hit exact beat, this exact moment. You need it to change in this exact way. So you need to compose things for that, because it's very difficult otherwise to make it match, when you're using only the radio music. And I think this is like a secret sauce. This is like the secret why it really feels very good, when it comes to the audio level, in our game, like why this whole world feels so real. Because like when you listen to all of those radio stations, like they're incredible. Like I love Principales, the sort of like Spanish Latino station, because I'm a dancer. I love bachata and salsa. So like for me, it was just the Latino music is is amazing. So I love listening to Principales, but there's so many other amazing stations in our game, that play the music that really feels authentic, for that times. So yeah, and we could talk so much more about inspirations and so on, but I think that's the gist of it.
Well, I think it's all great. I think in this interview we have a lot of information, a lot of inspirations, a lot of passion. I think this is where we're looking, and CD Projekt Red bring us all of these stuffs. And for finish, can you tell us about something about Witcher 4?
Not really. I mean, not much, of course. The Witcher is a game that we're working on right now, together with a couple other things like Cyberpunk, and it's the game where we have a lot of our team members on. So this is a game we're really focusing on, and this is the game that will be entering production this year. That's the plan. And we are all very passionate about building it really well. And I think that's as much as I can say at this point.
Oh, it's okay. Pavel, thank you very much for this interview. I love to meet you. I love our conversation. And welcome to Brazil. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Valeu, galera. É isso aí, então. Se inscreva no canal, deixa aquele like e tamo junto. Vale, CD Projekt Red. É nóis. Valeu.